So, good morning, everybody, and welcome to today's Saturday conversation for Saturday, the 23rd of July. My name's Ruth Crossland, 1S. It's important you get my name right, and you'll see why that, because Jo Crescenti, who most of you know, she and I are going to talk about names this morning. This is a production for the Avon Valley Churches, which is a group of churches in the northwest corner, I always think, of the New Forest, of 7 churches. I'm usually the licensed lay minister and focal minister at Wood Green and Hale. And Jo is currently, as you all know, I'm sure, going through her ordination training. So good morning, Jo.
Good morning, Ruth. It's lovely to be here.
It's lovely
really
to be
lovely.
Here. And it's lovely to see you. This conversation, this starting point for us came over, we thought about it at a staff meal. We're very lucky in the Avon Valley that we've got quite a lot of staff, and we get together and have social occasions once in a blue moon over a lovely meal and sometimes a glass of wine. And I think Jo and I were sat next to each other at a table not that long ago, and I said, "Come on, Jo, what's this? Jo Crescenti, you need to tell us more." So before Jo explains more, what I've asked her to do is to read a passage from Isaiah, which talks about names. Jo, thank you.
Okay, so this is Isaiah 43:1. And interestingly, actually, this chapter is called this passage at least, no chapter, is called Restoration and Protection Promised. But now thus says the Lord, He who created you, O Jacob, He who formed you, O Israel, do not fear, for I have redeemed you. I have called you by name. You are mine.
Well, how to follow that, really?
I know, it's amazing.
From the Bible, we hear that God has created us, as we know, and called us by our name and knows us by our names, really. And we also know about Shakespeare. A rose by any other name would smell just as sweet, where Shakespeare is actually saying that names are irrelevant. But I'm not sure I agree with that. And I think names are a really important part of our identity. They carry with them deep personal, cultural, familial and historical connections. It always surprises me, I'll give you a chance to speak in a minute, Jo. It always surprises me that I'm called Ruth Mary, 2 really biblical names, and both my parents, as far as I know, were not interested in religion at all. However, they do give us a sense of who we are and our community. And Jo Crescenti, I love it. I love Italian names. I love Italian food. I love Italian people. I love Italian wine. So tell us more, Jo.
Okay, so I'll be honest, after everyone, I know that I've said this on Thought for the Day before, but everybody who tunes into us and knows me personally will know that I've had quite a difficult year with my brother dying in January. And it's one of the things that, because he was, I don't want to say it sounds awful, but obviously culturally in Sicily, the male of the family is hugely important. And so my dad died 3 years ago, my brother died this year. So, and it's just me and my sister left, as it were. So we've lost all the males in my immediate family. And so I felt that I would take my maiden name, Crescenti, for ordination. Because, well, in fact, in Italy, a woman never loses her maiden name. She always keeps her maiden name, whether she's married or not. And so I've always had the name Crescenti. All of my documents in Italy are in the name Crescenti. It's been quite difficult sometimes signing and remembering which name I am. And it just felt like it was a natural step for me to say, as I come, as I've sort of offer myself and for ministry and things, and I go into that role that I will take my maiden name back. Often women take their husband's name, but for many women they have all of their qualifications in their maiden name. And so it just felt, especially after my brother died, that because there are so few Crescentis now, because obviously through marriage as well, I just felt that this was going to be the right choice for me.
Mm-hmm.
And I love my Sicilian name, I can't lie.
It's very interesting. Kate and I did a kind of day yesterday with some people from the PCCs of Muddyford and Burton churches. And one of the bits that I did was talking about unconscious bias. And we were talking about othering people and how sometimes people are felt like they are othered, and sometimes they feel like they're excluded from situations. But also we were talking about the fact that we all have the ability to go through this kind of unconscious bias idea. So that, for example, if I saw your name written on a piece of paper, Jo Crescenti, and I didn't know you, in my head, I would probably think Italian woman, long dark hair, loves pasta. I would build up all these stereotypes about you because of that.
That's true though, Ruth.
but
I mean, I don't want to say about my hair because obviously this is not real now.
It might not be true. The point is, that if you, I was involved in doing an evensong with a lovely lady from Salisbury came, and she was a trustee of a charity, and we did an evensong meeting at Wood Green, and her surname, I won't tell you what it is, but it's a wonderful Italian name. And when she arrived, she was as Italian as me. She had long blonde hair. She didn't typically look Italian. I'm assuming her husband is Italian. I didn't ask her because that wasn't important. But, names give us a kind of clue to the kind of person that we may see. But of course, that can be wrong as well, can't it? We can bias ourselves unconsciously, really. And I think what's very interesting is that I love the idea of, you've now decided that through the rest of your life, you will return to your maiden name. And I think we all have that choice, really, in a way. Some people go through it by joining their names together when they get married, don't they? They go the double-barreled way. I know people who are double-barreled because they couldn't decide, or they decided to have both, or whatever. But the whole thing about names is fascinating, really. So this is
can I say something else that I was really about names that I was really blown away by? My solicitor has anglicised his name because he's
what do you mean by that?
So because he's from Poland, his name was so difficult to spell and say and everything, so he's just taken exactly the same name but made it into, well, not made it because obviously it's an English name, but changed his name so that he could have an English sounding name for work purposes, right? Because it's much better for him to in his line of work to sound like an English person.
I mean, we know people in the Avon Valley who have, if you like, two names. They have a professional name and they have a personal name. We have somebody in the Avon Valley who works as an author, and she often uses one name, and then some of her life she uses the other name. So it's very interesting because names are crucial to who we are in a way, and yours is even more so, I think, because it picks up with your Italian heritage, doesn't it?
And being not a revelation, but I think being at CMS, we have done so much. All of what we do is about hearing voices from different people in different parts of the world. And so for me, I just really embraced myself more. I mean, I've always had my love for Sicily, and I go over there all the time. As you know, I'm just about to go again. I absolutely adore the place, the people, and the food. Oh, it's amazing. But I think there's so much of me that I would say is Italian in nature. And so having my name actually, in a way, compensates for that people can understand me. Yeah, because I live in the UK, people can understand me differently. But I think you're right. You started off by saying, you know, there's so much baggage that we carry, and so many prejudices we have around people's names. And that works both ways. So, and I think this was in one of the weirdest bits of my journey to ordination. I think one of the hardest things for me is actually, you know, carrying an English name, but having this real Italian identity. And as you know, everyone who meets me says, "Oh, she's so Italian."
Yes. Yes. That's interesting, isn't it? Because with cultures and with names, therefore, we do ascribe attributes to people, you know, and now, you know, we can say, oh, well, of course you knew Gio was Italian, because look, Crescenti, of course it's Italian, you know, so you know that that's part of her heritage. Even if you didn't know that about her before, you now know it, really. And of course, I think the interesting thing for us as Christians in churches is how we get to know people's names. And I wouldn't like to boast, but one of the gifts I think I've been given is the ability to remember people's names quite well. And
Ruth, you know you can't say that when we've just had a conversation about you meeting my daughter down the cafe.
Oh yeah, I forgot about your daughter. Well, that's not fair. That's because I met Joe's daughter the other day in a coffee shop, and I couldn't remember which daughter she was, and that's terrible. I'm really sorry, Sylvie. But this sometimes happens, doesn't it? You're introduced to two people at the same time. It might be adults, it doesn't have to be children, and you think, which one's which? I mean, obviously, if one's male, one's female, you've got half a chance of getting their names right. But when you're introduced to two teenagers at the same time, it's more difficult. And I have, do you know, I was thinking M&S is what I ought to remember. But actually, it isn't Marks and Spencer's, your daughters. It's the other way around. It's Spencer's and Marks. That's what I need to think. Sylvie is the youngest, and Moni's the oldest.
Yeah, that's right.
But I think also one of the senses of people coming to church and feeling that they belong is when somebody says, hello, Joe, or hello, Ruth. If somebody can remember your name, it really gives you a sense of belonging, I think. And I think it's not easy, but I think we need to work on it.
Well, you said there, Ruth, that you're good at remembering names. So I'm going to put it out there today that I'm not good at remembering names. And actually what I have to do is if I know I need to remember names, I will actually have a piece of paper and write them down, because I'm much more a visual than an auditory learner. So if someone tells me their name, they could tell it to me like 1,000 times and I still won't remember. But if I've seen it written down, I can't forget it. And anything that is, I think this is, you know, some people are naturally better at that than other people. But I do agree with you. It's so important for us to make an effort as well to do that. One of the most powerful things for COVID, and the lady in question will know I'm referring to her. She said one of the things that she loved in an online service was when we named a member of her family in the prayers. She said that was the biggest comfort that she had ever had at that stage in her life. So yeah, names are so important. And actually, I would say as well, titles. So I've just had my checkbook come through with my new surname. And I requested that my title's going to change quite soon, but I requested to change it to Ms, and it's come through as Mrs. And okay, it's fine, you know, it's a checkbook, but that it's very important that we just don't make assumptions about what is the right way to or what words we should use actually for people. And interestingly, my daughter, my eldest daughter, when she had her first bank account, she said, "Oh, what title do I put down?" And she said, "I'm going to put Ms, because this distinction between Miss and Mrs. is not something that young people have grown up with in the way that we did." So
yes,
it just works for them.
I've been single all my life, and obviously, and for a point in my life, people used to say, "Are you Miss or Mrs.?" And I say, "No, I'm Miss. I'm the spinster of the parish." I always used to say it like that as a kind of joke because it sounds like that. It's not now, but it was in those days. You were kind of, there was an unconscious bias about using the title Miss. And there was a different bias, obviously, if you used the title Mrs., if you could use it. And then also there was this funny thing that went on, I think, if you wanted to be Ms., people probably ascribed different characteristics to you because you'd actually selected Ms as opposed to Miss. So very interesting things about names, really.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's good. I think one of the things that helped me when I first arrived in Avon Valley, which didn't help everybody else perhaps, was that all the coffee after the services was on Zoom. So you could read people's names at the bottom of their screen. So I got to know quite a few names of people before I'd actually met the people, which was really helpful for me. That's one of the benefits of Zoom, really, in a way.
Well, exactly. Yeah. It is nice to actually know and see names. I mean, for me as well, to see names written down, because then you can't make the mistake. I'm always making mistakes with people's names. Please forgive me if I make a mistake with your name. I don't mean it. Not Ruth, obviously, because I've known Ruth for years. But
quite a long time. I was looking at the history of surnames a bit this morning because I thought it'd be quite useful. And surnames often, this is interesting because what we've just talked about with yourself, Jo, is that surnames sometimes are used, people get their surname for describing an area where they might have lived historically in their family. So you might have somebody who's called Dale, as it were, their surname might be Dale, and that's probably a valley. And there's a lot of Dales in the surname category in Yorkshire. And then, of course, you've got people who are Wood or Field or Rivers or Brooks or Ford, or I'm tempted to say Heath, those kind of things describing an area historically. And then some people's surnames come from the location. So you sometimes have people who are called Lincoln, because that's where they used to come from. And we all know, I think, historically about people who may have been called Smith, because probably in their long gone history, there's some relative who might have been a blacksmith. So there's a lot of stuff. And there's even, it said on the web, there's even names in the past that have come from people that describe the people. So there might be somebody who's called Goodfellow, because people thought he was quite a nice bloke. Or Swift, because he used to run fast, or Brown, because maybe they had brown eyes. So there's a whole load of things that come on from surnames as well. And Johnson and Jones might be the son of John. So it's interesting where the derivatives are from all our names, really. I always think it's quite entertaining that my name is Crossland, and my family, we have people that used to sell bicycles. And I always think, that's a good name, Crossland, it's about cycling across the land, really. I'm sure it's nothing to do with that, but, there we are.
Yeah, no, and one of the, so my name Crescenti is, so you probably know the word crescendo in music. Crescenti is the Sicilian version of that word. So instead of saying crescere, which means grow or bring up or raise up, it's I probably won't say it right because I don't speak dialect very well, but it's crescere. So that's what my name means, to bring up or to raise up. So
well, isn't that a perfect name for you?
Well, I think so. You know, I'm kind of wedded to it.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just wondering when your crescendo will arrive, actually, because I thought you'd
I
been through
hope
a
it
few.
does arrive. I
Hey?
hope it does arrive. I really hope my crescendo at some point does arrive.
Perhaps it'll arrive on your day of being made a deacon or on your day
Yeah.
of being ordained a priest, you know.
Mm,
I think
yeah.
that's wonderful. Or when you have your first parish, or
Yeah.
there'll be all these. Well, you're going to have lots of little crescendos, I think.
Yeah.
What's the plural of crescendo? Is
So
it crescendi? No.
hold on. So
I don't know my Italian well enough.
Sicilian dialect has been very much shaped by Spanish. They use complete Spanish words. It's been shaped by Arabic, by
Right.
North African invasion. So there are lots of really interesting kind of adaptations of Italian, but also completely different words that are
Sure.
in Sicilian.
Sure.
So I would say probably my name, actually with an I, probably would be meaning a plural.
Oh, right.
But what's fascinating is going to Sicily. People know my family line quite far back.
Okay.
There's actually a road named after my family. So I get this real sense of kind of connecting with the past. And I suppose that is always been one of my draws to church, is this complete, you feel that you're part of something that stretches right back in time. And if we think about that passage from Isaiah again, Isaiah was talking about being called not just as an individual, but also as a nation, as a group of people. And so when I think of our calling and being part of this much bigger whole, it gives me this huge reassurance that we all matter and we're all important.
Yes, God knows each and every one of us. Yes,
yeah,
exactly. And loves us as well, despite everything, which I would think is amazing as well. Yeah. One of the things I was going to share with you, which we talked about very briefly before we started this morning, was a service. And most of us will know that there is, of course, the service of baptism or christening, same thing really. But there is also the provision in common worship for a service for the gift and naming of a child. And this is a service that is often seen for people who are perhaps not ready for their child to be baptized. And perhaps they see this as a preliminary to baptism, or maybe that they actually, as parents, want to give thanks to God for their child. And it is a service in the Pastoral Services book, and it is a service that I have only once in my life conducted, because it's not a sacramental service such as baptism and wedding, marriage. It is, of course, able to be conducted by a licensed lay minister. And I remember the child at the time. I think he was about 4. He was a lovely, delightful little boy, and his parents came to church, and we had the most amazing service. And I think the liturgy for it, the words for it, are much, I suppose I would say, a little bit softer in what they're actually asking people to promise. But I encourage any of you who are interested in it to look it up. It is on the Church of England website, and it's called, as I say, Thanksgiving for the Gift of a Child. And I think it's what people need to be sure of course, is that they're not registered in the baptismal register. So, if they want to be baptized later on, that's important to say, because it's really not that service. But anyway, I just wanted to say a little bit about that as well, because I don't think a lot of people know about it.
Well, I didn't know about it until now. Obviously I know that there are naming ceremonies, but I didn't realize that it was an authorized practice in the Church of England. And I would say, how wonderful actually to have the opportunity to join together and give thanks for the wonder of new new life.
Yeah.
I mean, as I say, now I know this, Ruth. I have, even more to share with people, which is wonderful.
Yeah.
Really, really is wonderful.
Good.
Yeah, that's fantastic.
We haven't thought about this, but I don't know. I'm sure you will have. At the end of the Saturday conversation, sometimes it's quite nice to have a song or a hymn. Obviously, we could talk about a couple with name him. At the name of Jesus. There's a few. I don't know whether you have anything, Jo, that would be your choice to finish off with.
No, but I tell you what we can put on, Ruth.
Yeah.
I think if I find one of the sung, I could probably find this passage sung. Is that a good idea?
I think that's a wonderful idea. That's beyond my skill set. I leave that to you, Jo. If you
I won't be singing it, just
no.
And everyone will breathe a sigh of relief.
And the same would be true about me, so that's all right. We'll leave it to the professionals to do the singing. And Jo has very kindly, although I'm happy to do lots of things in AVC, I haven't quite still got the tech sorted out. So Jo is very kindly going to post this conversation for Saturday the 23rd on Facebook, on the usual places. And so a big thank you, Jo. Thank you also, Ms. Crescenti.
Thank you.
I have to remember any Italian. I can't remember any Italian. I tell you my favourite Italian word, prosciutto.
Oh, who loves we all love a bit of prosciutto.
But it's just a wonderful word. I mean, whether it's ham or not, the word is just perfect. So it's been a joy and a blessing, Jo, to talk to you.
And to you, Ruth.
We wish you soon. We wish you well with your onward journey, as they say. We know that you're going to reach many crescendos. And, and thank you so much, Jo, for talking to us.
Thank you.
Bye for now.
Take care. See you soon, everyone. Bye.
Yeah, yes. God bless. Bye.
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 Through the waters, I will be with you, and the waves, they will not overcome you. Do not fear, for I have redeemed you. I have called you by name. You are mine, for I am the Lord your God. I am the Lord your God. I am the Holy One of Israel, your Savior. For I am the Lord your God. Be burned, and the flames, they will not consume